engaging the enemy. Attacking as ordered. Commencing attack. None shall stop us. We will crush the enemies of the Imperium. Initiating attack protocol 23. For the glory of the Imperium.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video. Ever since I first saw the Hammerfall Bunker prior to the 9th edition Space Marine Codex release, I knew that I would eventually have to get this model. Simply too many flashbacks to the good old days of playing the first StarCraft game back when it freshly got released, and the many years of playing that followed. In the first part of this video, I will be covering the multiple modifications I have been doing for this model, namely installing turret control, LEDs, audio, as well as magnetizing the weapons. Hopefully, this will be of some inspiration to you guys when you are doing something similar with the bunker. In the second part of the video, we will quickly cover how to actually play this model. The first step was the installation of the LEDs, as this requires drilling and cabling throughout the whole model. For the LEDs, I used a ready-made kit that could otherwise be installed in some kind of military vehicles. It basically has white, red and green lights, which I assume would be front, back and some additional light source on the vehicle. Where exactly you are installing the LEDs on the Hammerfall Bunker is up to you, of course. What I personally wanted was at least some lighting in the turret part of the bunker. I put the white lights in the launcher section as some sort of guidance system, the green ones for sensors facing to the front, and finally the red ones on the sides of the bunker as a warning not to approach. For drilling, I used my usual hand drills that I also use for magnetizing or other LED installations. While placing the cables throughout the bunker, it is best to glue as little as possible until all the cables are in place and the LEDs tested and confirmed to work. Once I had the LED cabling in place, I went about installing the motor for the turret control. For this, I used a ready-made item from JS Miniatures, which can be used with battle tank turrets. It does a 90-degree rotation, which I found preferable over a full 360-degree rotation. I've seen the latter done on Hammerfall bunkers before, but to me personally, that makes it look more like a radar dish rather than a missile turret. Anyway, personal preference, I guess. Another advantage of restricted rotation is of course that it won't mess with the cabling for the LEDs. If you are going for a 360-degree variant, you will not be able to install cabling in the turret part of the bunker. Next came the audio installation. For this, I decided to go for a recording component used in modeling. I think this one is for trains and similar. What was important to me was that it had 3 cables and the option to place the battery pack separately from the rest of the unit. As an alternative, I think this could also be done with a very small Bluetooth speaker to be placed inside of the Hammerfall bunker. However, I like the idea of having the audio working on its own, without the need to have the cell phone around. I used the same device for my Corvus Blackstar customizations and really like the results. Speaking of which, installing all of this in the Hammerfall bunker was so much easier compared to the Corvus, simply because the Hammerfall bunker is such a large model and there is plenty of empty space to be filled, as if waiting for these kind of customizations. For the recording itself, I picked some Space Marine sounds from the Dawn of War game, one of my all-time favorites. One thing to consider is the placement of the different switches for all these gadgets. Turret, LED and audio, that's 3 different switches. One big advantage is that the underside of the bunker remains open, so I decided to place the switch for the LEDs inside of the bunker. The control for turret I left separately. This way it can either be stored underneath the bunker or taken outside of it. Last but not least, the audio activation button I placed at the back of the bunker for convenient activation. It can be activated by pressing on the Aquila symbol outside. Beyond these tech gadgets, I also wanted the weapons of the Hammerfall Bunker to be exchangeable. This turned out to be pretty simple, though a bit time consuming. 2 weapons per side, 4 sides, 2 different loadouts, that's 16 weapon pieces to magnetize. For this, I used my usual 3mm per 1mm magnets that I also use for most of my other models. With all that done, before applying the primer, as usual when dealing with LEDs, make sure that you cover all the areas containing LEDs with some tape to prevent them from getting sprayed over. Now that we have finished our Hammerfall Bunker, how do we go about best using it in a game? The answer is that most likely we won't. When this model initially got previewed, I assumed that it could be deployed similar to a drop pod, which would have been amazing. However, it is an actual fortification that has to be set up as such. As mentioned during the installation part, this thing is quite big, making it difficult to actually deploy it on maps with a decent amount of terrain. Furthermore, even if you can set it down, there is a chance that it will end up in a position where it cannot really draw a line of sight on anything for the large majority of the game. That is going to be 175 points sitting there doing nothing. I think that for the number of points, there are plenty of good and mobile alternatives available to guard the backfield. I also think that this is one of those models where GW had originally a good idea but then failed to properly implement it. This is truly a shame, because I think that the Hammerfall Bunker has a lot of potential. Looking at its datasheet, while the profile itself is not all that impressive, there is this really cool defensive array rule in your shooting phase. Each time this model is selected to shoot, its Hammerfall Heavy Bolter Array or its Hammerfall Heavy Flamer Array can target and resolve attacks against every eligible enemy unit. For Overwatch, only the charging unit is targeted, but with the better profile. I really like this idea, but as previously mentioned, the way it currently has to be deployed, you might just never get to use it. On the contrary, it might actually assist the enemy in slingshotting. Would be great to see a complete rework of the Hammerfall Bunker and have it actually be deployed like a drop pod. StarCraft vibes right there. So that's it for the Hammerfall Bunker. While it has been quite some work for a not so competitive model, I have to say that I really like the looks, and perhaps it can be used for scenery rather than the actual fortification. Do you guys have one in your own army, or are you planning to get one? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, though not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated, as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again, and see you next time.